My pathway into this work began when a very well-meaning mentor of mine at Yale Law School put his arm around me and said, "You'll have a lot easier path on the track to tenure if you are a homosexual professional than if you are a professional homosexual." And I knew exactly what he meant. He meant that I would do much better as a constitutional law professor who taught separation of powers and federalism and judicial review, and just happened to be gay on the side as a kind of extracurricular activity, than I would do if I were the constitutional law professor who taught gay rights subjects, wrote on gay rights issues, and litigated gay rights cases. I didn't have a word for what he was asking me to do, but I knew that it would have an enormous impact on my life if I acceded to it. And such was the terror of the tenure track that for a couple of years I tried to accede to this demand and to downplay my various attributes so as not to seem, quote unquote, too gay. I went in search of the word that described what that colleague was asking me to do. The familiar words didn't apply. He wasn't asking me to convert, wasn't saying go out and be straight. He wasn't asking me even to pass. It's okay to be gay so long as you live your life in the closet. But he was asking me to tone down or make easy for others to disattend one aspect of my identity that was stigmatized. And I found my word covering in the sociologist Erving Goffman's work, Stigma, Notes on the Management of Spoiled Identity, published in 1963. And so I wrote my own book in 2006, and that's what brought me into contact with my dear friend and colleague now, Christie Smith.
On September 11th, 2001, I was in the World Trade Center when the first plane hit. By luck, I was not sitting near the window of the restaurant in which I was dining, and I lived, unlike so many people on that day and in that room. For the next several years, I put on my suit and my heels, and I went to work pretending as if nothing had happened. But inside, I was suffering from panic, anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. At first, I avoided meetings in our downtown offices in New York, and then I avoided meetings in New York altogether. I was so ashamed of my inability to cope and to deal with that horrid experience that I just held back. And despite all efforts to the contrary, despite efforts and an insatiable desire to want to be successful in my work, for that period of time, my job, my clients were only getting about half of me, half of my brain, half of my attention, and worse yet, half of my passion. So this got me thinking, while Kenji did an exceptionally beautiful job at talking about covering from a personal standpoint and the cost of covering from a legal standpoint, I wondered, what was the corporate cost of covering?
The Clayman Institute for Gender Research at Stanford University. Reinvigorating gender equality in the 21st century.